Yo, it's Captain, bringing you a Star Rail Captain's Log 2.2-10, and we finally did it, boys. We finally beat 2.2. We got it. We did it. We saw the end. We saw the little to be continued. We saw the may your Trailblaze journey never end. Actually, that's not what it says. It says may this journey lead our starward. I'm a little tired, boys. I'm a little tired. I haven't got a lot of sleep. Anyways, we saw the end. We did it. It was hype. It actually didn't take very long. We had we still probably had like half a stream left when we finished, so we actually got time to do all the wrap up stuff and see all the things we unlocked, and we checked out Robin and started the event, the event for this patch, just to see what that's like. I don't know, we might actually have a shorter video because there wasn't as much story. you can you can check the timestamp and see if I did it. See if we pull it off. But yeah, it was what was left in the story? Well, there was the big boss fight with the real Septimus, right? With the three-faced Septimus. Then I mean, it's mainly the fight. It's mainly the fight, and then there was a little exit sequence, very similar to when they tricked us and we saw the credits. They had another sequence like that, and then there was a post-credit bonus scene to set up the next chapter. Well, the next patch. I suspect it'll actually be still chapter 3. According to the game. I think it'll still be in the Penacony chapter. However, this really was the end of Penacony. This was the Penacony main story. I think the next chapter I think the next patch will still be in the Penacony chapter, but it'll be like an epilogue. Seems like it'll be dealing with the fallout, essentially, of what all has just happened. And then yeah, so that's what we did. So that's the story. I want to talk about the boss fight for a little bit because it's interesting. I guess I don't know, it feels like too early to give my thoughts on this whole thing, but at the same time I don't know when else I'm going to talk about them. But so maybe I'll talk about that in this video too. But I want to talk about the fight because the fight was pretty cool. And I think, I don't know, it could just be, shiny new thing syndrome, but I think this fight was as good as the chapter 1 fight, the Cocolia boss. And that was when I liked the game. I was already predisposed to the game. I was enjoying it quite a good deal. But that boss was what showed me that this game really could be something. Like this game's really got something. Was beating the Belobog story and beating the Cocolia boss, because you're doing it and then like all the like your friends are showing up and all the all the stuff you've been doing is kind of culminated, and here's this boss that you understand what has happened. You understand her philosophy and why she has went on it and why she's wrong. And you stand for what Belobog should be standing for, as her philosophy has got corrupted and went the wrong way because of the Stellaron. And there's like a whole like story scene in the middle of the boss fight where you get a new ability because you're standing for preservation more than she is. Klipos swings his hammer, which will actually come up today, and and then it's like the real fight, and she drops a meteor on you, and the music goes wild, just like right in tune with the moments, and it's really something. So everything's just coming together to have this epic fight, to have this epic conclusion. It's not really, epic climax to the story, and it blew me away. I don't think it. I don't think anybody who played it didn't get blown away. I'm sure somebody did, but pretty much everybody's like, "Wow, that was cool." And chapter 2 wasn't bad, and the big boss wasn't bad, but it didn't reach that height for me. I liked chapter 2 overall. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was great. But it was more meandery. It wasn't chapter 1 kind of like felt like you were going here and then boom and it was amazing, right? Whereas chapter 2 was kind of like we were here and here and here, and each one had their heights, like um figuring out about the what were they called, the Sanctus Medicus folks, and that twist, like if you played that quest that it tells you to play before you do the story, if you seeing the twist there was really cool. The twist with Ting Yung was really cool, and the big boss was really cool. But you didn't really get like time to spend with Fantilia to have that moment, that big climax. It was just we were following it, and then it's like, oh, now we've got this to deal with, and each one had cool moments, but it didn't have like, I don't know, I don't remember it super well, so it's hard to critique it because who knows if I'm just making stuff up. But it didn't feel like it had the same cohesion, like direction. Not like it was bad, but as far as the focus. And I feel like this one, chapter 3, has had that focus, because this chapter's been all over the place as far as twists and turns, and most of it's been trying to figure out the mystery. It's written like a mystery, where you're just never quite sure what is real and what is happening. You don't know anybody's positions, and they're all hiding something from you because they don't want to reveal their cards, right? Because they don't know if they can trust you either. And so you're all just, there's a lot of just trying to figure things out. But when you do, when it all comes unfolded, all the pieces do start to point together. Things start falling into place, and it becomes very clear where you're going and who's going there with you. You do get that moment where you get to talk to the boss, the bad guy, and really just you spent more time with Sunday than you did Cocolia. You really know Sunday. He ends up betraying you. Well, I don't know if he was ever really on your side, to be fair. Is it a betrayal if we didn't know we could trust him in the first place? But you've spent a lot of time with him, and then all of a sudden it's revealed he's not on your side. He's definitely trying to do something different than you are, and you realize that's not a good thing what he's trying to do, and you get like a long time to talk with him and feel out what the hell he's trying to do and why. And I mean, he's still clearly wrong in the end, but you really feel like you understand him, and you feel like you get a sense that one of the satisfying things about this chapter is that the characters are layered and complex. So I hesitate to say that you fully get him, right? There's still layers there, but you can kind of understand enough. You get a good sense of what he's doing. You don't fully understand all his motivations. You know what I mean? I'm sure you could keep digging and find more, because I'm sure you look around and find different interpretations of this, and that's because it's meaningful and layered, or really confusing. But I think it's the former. But so you kind of know what's going on, and so you have a lot of story in the boss fight itself, which felt good. It reminded me of the chapter 1, where there was the story that you've been working on is now in the boss fight. The story's playing out in the boss fight. It's not story, boss fight, finish story. It's story is the boss fight, is the finish, right? Which is really great. It's like I don't know. I compare the Hoyo games a lot to Final Fantasy 14 because I feel like they're remarkably similar in goals and story kind of presentation. But one of the great things about Final Fantasy 14 is it's very watchable just to watch boss fights for dungeons and raids and stuff because everything in that game is story focused. So everything you're doing is story relevant. That's the strength of the game. So everything tells a story, including the boss fights. So it's really fun to just watch the boss fights and listen to them and read the little lines they're talking about. And there's a story that's playing out in the fight, and that's what makes it so memorable. Because I mean, people latch onto narratives. That's how people work. Everything's a narrative. Uh, that's what you remember. You remember stories. That's what you get attached to. You get attached to stories of people, stories of places, stories of things, stories of your life, stories of someone else's life. Um, every artistry and the things people resonate with, songs, movies, games, um, paintings. It's the narrative that gets you. You could argue there's other things too. That's fair, but people are very narrative creatures. So having everything tied into a story makes it really compelling. It makes those boss fights really memorable and interesting, even though they're just boss fights, and it really elevates them beyond squeaky arm. It elevates them beyond a lot of other boss fights you see in MMOs or whatever. So here we have that. We have that again, and what makes it so good is this boss fight is part of the story. There's a story in the boss fight. You're playing through it. It's not just kill this thing to continue the story. It is the story. The story has led up, the story is continuing, and the story, will conclude afterwards. So that's what I think makes this boss fight so good. And it's too fresh for me to really say it's better than chapter 1. Which has been kind of like the biggest highlight of the game. Again, not that I've done a lot of cool things since then, but like things that are gonna stick out of my memory as, like a bright point. Like that was really cool. You know what I mean? And I think this is on that level at least. It is really good. It is really memorable. I think this is gonna stick with us. And it could be it's like the Mario Galaxy 2 versus Mario Galaxy 1 thing, where Mario Galaxy 2 is fantastic, but can you really say it's better than Mario Galaxy? I mean, Mario Galaxy 1 introduced the whole thing. It was the first, It has a special thing to it. It's like Ocarina of Time versus Twilight Princess. I mean, what is Twilight Princess but just a very large version of Ocarina of Time? Does that make it better? I mean, it's bigger and better, but is it really better? I mean, like, can you really say it's topped the thing that started it? The thing that, like it's almost like it just wouldn't exist without it, right? So to me, it's the same thing. It's like we've achieved the same heights, and we've probably achieved them in a more impressive. Like we've probably done everything that Chapter 1 boss did, but bigger and better. But does that make it surpass the other one? I mean, the original was still first, right? So I will say it's at least on par for me. At least on par. It was a fantastic fight, and it was amazing. Sunday, giant Septimus choir master Sunday is not as hot as Cocolia, so that's definitely a negative. But I mean, other than that, like he does look a little goofy. It's odd. It works, but it is odd. But he's supposed to be divine, like in the odd kind of way, like like the biblical angel depictions that you see, and it's like eyeball wheels. You find those videos on YouTube, and you're like, oh my god, it's freaky. It's that kind of divine imagery, and so he's a little weird. Anyway, I should probably talk about what the story in the fight actually is. Oh, I'm quite tired. I feel like I'm not gonna get any sleep tonight either. I think we're just gonna do a fun day tomorrow. Will I do a video on tomorrow? I don't know. We'll see. I want to, but if it's just a super fun day, I'll think of something. We'll see. This has been a marathon, is what I'm saying, because these videos have been taking a little bit longer. One, if you notice, the timestamps are longer, but also they just been take because I like rewatch the thing and I try to I try to make sense of the story. It takes a while. I get a lot more out of the story, but it's a lot of prep work. I probably don't have time for. But when does that stop me? Um, so let's talk about the boss fight. What is the story of the boss fight? So you have woken up Penacony, right? We saw that cutscene yesterday. You've woken up Penacony, and he's like, "Y'all broke out of order. What?" And he's constantly like, whenever you're hitting him, he's constantly talking about, "Oh, it's noise. This is noise. Disorderly noise." It's right. He's still. This is the order. This is Sunday's whole thing. He has got everyone trapped using the order. He's got everyone trapped in the dream to give them the perfect life, while he makes sure it all happens. Stays in control of it all. And so you're trying. You know, his whole thing is everyone's. It works because everyone's too weak to face the challenges of life. So I will take their life away from them, so they won't have challenges, and I will just give them everything they want. So they just dream about whatever they want, and they're completely pacified because they're just dreaming about sunshine and rainbows all day, but never any hardships. And our whole thing is that's not right. People deserve freedom, right? You're taking their will from them. That is a wrong thing to do. It's not your will to take from them, right? You don't have the authority. That's wrong. So ours is a trailblaze of adventure, of choosing your path and going your way because that's the way you want to go. So we're very freedom oriented, right? The trailblaze itself is. And so we have a conflict here. He's trapped all these people against their will, but you wouldn't know it because they're all dreaming of nice things, and so they don't even fight back because they don't even realize what's happening. And so he's trying to control everything. We're trying to push for freedom, and the fight kind of plays out like he's a big choir master, and he's right. He's the maestro, and he's conducting everything so that it goes orderly and exactly how it's supposed to. And then we're trying to fight him. So he uses these little ghost people to attack you and whatnot. And the fight itself mechanically is very much about getting the breaks in. I don't know if it's super relevant to the story, but it's very much about getting the weakness breaks in. And that mechanic comes into play in the third phase. But so like you get through the first phase, it's normal. I felt like it was a little too easy for me. I don't know if it's because we had technically done it once, so I knew how to do it. I don't know if it's because I just actually read the boss descriptions, so I knew how to play it properly. I don't know if it's because I brought my team was a little too like I usually bring just the team that's there, but I decided to go with the team that we had thought would be there, because March and Don Hung are just like not useful on this fight. Oh, it's all about getting weakness breaks, and they don't have the right element. So this fight, more than a lot of others, it's really relevant who you bring. And so I was like, well, I'll bring Acheron and Gallagher, along with Himiko and Harmony Trailblazer, who are stellar at this fight. And it was I mean, it was really good. We just really locked the guy down, and he didn't have much of a shot. And I think you could have actually brought some people who didn't work, because the third phase does give you some leeway. The third phase is kind of like a DPS race, but it makes him weak to everyone. So all of your characters can contribute, even if even if you brought him for support and not for the even if they're not element typed for the fight. So I don't know. Maybe I should have actually brought March and Don Hung instead of Acheron and Gallagher. But whatever. It was still fun. We had a good time with it. And I guess yesterday, now if you remember in that cutscene that sets this fight up, um, you know, it's all about waking Penacony up, and we had 3 or 4 parts of the plan that were all about bringing freedom to Penacony. One was what was the order? It was just waking up strong heroes who could lead the way, and that was essentially us. We woke up, so we woke up first. We're the first element of Discord. Part 2 is Boot Hill is going to bring in strong-willed, strong free-willed individuals from outside, bring them into the dream, so there's more disorder against the control. And he's going to do that by calling in the Galaxy Rangers. Robin is going to sing a counter song, because all this was done through the song of harmony that he tainted towards order. So Robin, being a singer, and the other twin is going to sing the song of harmony but taint it with Trailblaze and freedom to oppose it. So we'll have a counter song. And Acheron is going to make everyone feel like they need to save themselves, which will encourage them to wake up and resist. She does that by murdering everyone, but that's okay. She literally like murders the whole dream, which is a pretty epic cutscene. But if you remember the cutscene and we wake up and go to the fight, now I want to talk about this. I actually spent a lot of time today rewatching the first chapter, or rewatching the first little bit where you first meet Acheron, because that cutscene, she repeats the lines from when you first met her. And so I went back and I was like, let me just watch that, and I want to see what it was like. And it raises some interesting questions. Like the first time you see her, she goes, "Oh, not another one," and then she guides you out, and it's like she's reading from a script. And then she gives you, and then she goes off script, asks you the questions, right? You know, like, can you sever the bonds with your own hands? Would you live in the dream? Would you go on a journey if you knew it was doomed to end? Right? And then she kills you. And then here, right before this boss fight, she does that again. She asks you the questions again, except you don't get choices this time. You have to say, I guess, the right choices. And she gives you the line about how you'll see red in the monochrome world, and you'll make a choice, and then you'll see red again, and that's how you know it's time to wake up. And she like kills you again. But this time you wake up, right? But also, right when you meet her, when you first wake up from the twist, the first thing she says to you is, "Not another one." Like, "Oh, not another one." And you're like, wait, that's what she said the first time. And this time, right before this boss fight, they're pairing it with her leading Tiernan out of the Nihility death, right? Because he's stuck in the Nihility and he doesn't know he's dead, and she has to help him realize he's dead and then get out of Nihility. And what is she doing in that first scene? When you first come to Penacony, she's leading you out. Kind of like how she leads people out of the Nihility when they're dead. And I'm like, are we dead? And she asks us, one of the things that are different is, like, she asks us if we remember her. And it's in the red letters. Like, when she goes off the script, it's like the red letters. And we're like, I don't know. And she's like, you're kind of familiar to me. And then after you answer all of her questions, she says, weird. It's like there was a whole bunch of versions of you that answered differently, that were all in the same moment but answered differently. And then remember, she said, not another one. And then once you get to the end for right before this boss fight, she says, not another one. It's like, has there been a whole bunch of versions of us that she's just been waking up until she gets to the right one? And the first time she did it, we weren't the right one yet. And this second time we saw it, we were the right one. You know, right after she thanks Black Swan, right before this boss fight, where you're trying to wake everybody up, you know, and you're figuring out what the twist is. She says, not another one. And then she says, thank you, Black Swan. And then you're fine. Then she gives you some of the lines she gave you the first time, but like not on a script, like the real versions of them. And you're like, interesting. And then Black Swan, you get the idea that Black Swan's the one who's waking everybody up, but she also has this really odd throwaway line that says it's all thanks to Acheron's plan. And you're like, wait, I thought Acheron just thanked you for waking her up. Why are you giving credit for all this to Acheron? I thought this was all you. And then Acheron later says it's because of Firefly that everyone figured out what was happening. So there's some unanswered questions there. And there's also a weird and remember right before this boss fight, when she's redoing the questions and the wake up line to you, she takes you to the edge of existence where the nihility is, which is also where she takes the people when she leads them out of death. Like, it pairs it with the Tiernan scene, because presumably she's doing the same thing for you that she did for Tiernan when she got him away from the nihility. And you're like, are they just pairing these things together to show us the parallels between, the dream and being dead? Because that's throughout the whole chapter is death and the dream. And if you're dreaming, are you dead? And if you're if you're not living because you're dreaming, is it any better than being dead? Is being alive worth it when you could be dreaming but you'd be dead? Right? There's this it keeps coming back, the parallels, as well as the question of, why do we dream and stuff. Even that's going to be at the end of this boss fight. Why do we dream and stuff? It keeps coming up. And a lot of people's answers are like related to death. I think, when the Aventurine and Acheron were talking to each other, it's we dream to prepare to die. We got to get used to it. It's that kind of thing. So there's these things. Firefly's talking about her 3 deaths. And one of them was, and Himiko says the one of them would have been if we lost and everybody is stuck in the dream in Penacony, that would be a death. So is it just that? Is Acheron just leading us out of this death that is the dream? Or like are we actually dead and this is part of a meta story? This is part of a meta story that Acheron, we've been dead a long time. Like, maybe we're not even alive. It's just we got that Stellaron in us. You know what I mean? Because like what were we before Kafka stuffed the Stellaron in? Is this some meta commentary? Oh, another one? And then she's leading us out of death? I don't know. It just was all wild to me. Because I was watching that. I could get done with the book, you go back and read the first chapter and see what kind of foreshadowing and, what it was like now that you have all the context. I did that with this, and I ended up with some wild questions. I was like, what the fuck? So, I don't know. I don't know what it all means. Because why does she take us to the edge of existence right before this boss fight? Did she really need to do that to wake us up? I think the implication is she had to tell us it all in the very beginning of the chapter so that when she did it the second time, it would help us to wake up officially. I think that's the idea. It's like she had to do it the first time so that she could give us the line about like, hey, this is going to happen. And when it happens again, you need to think about it and you need to realize that's when you got to wake up. Like, it's like you needed the subconscious trigger so that she could help you. And if you remember at the very end of the cutscene, she kind of materializes out of nowhere and pulls you up, and it pulls you out of the dream because you see the flash of red. It kills you right at the beginning of the chapter. You see the flash of red again here at the end of the chapter. I'm sure the chapter will continue, but this is the end of the primary story. And right in between, there's questions. Right? And the line is, you'll be in a black and white world. You'll see a flash of red. When you make a choice, you'll see it again, and that's how you know when it's time to wake up. So here, where she asks the questions, we make a choice. She tells us it doesn't matter what the answers are as long as you made the decision, and then we see the flash of red again because she kills everyone. And then she pulls us up and wakes us up. Right? So maybe it's just they just had to set up like that loop, This isn't even about the boss. I don't know when else I would say that. I just was really thinking about that today. So, how did I get on this? How did I get on this? So back to the boss. Anyway, so this is where we are. This we woke it up. We're at the boss. We're doing the boss. If you recall from the scene, everyone did their part. There was 4 or 5 parts to get everyone to wake up. Boot Hill with the Galaxy Rangers, Acheron with threatening everybody, Robin with the song, and us and the others with, strong individuals trying to lead people out, right? Well, the cutscene had everything except Robin and the song. And we guessed yesterday, right, that she would appear for this boss, and she does. And when you get to phase 2, a little into phase 2, he puts like a big shield on himself, which sucks. And it's wild because it's only part of the fight where the break doesn't matter. You just have to do raw damage to get through the shield. And then I think it was right after that for me, Robin appears. Like a feather appears. You hear singing and a feather appears, and it goes into a cutscene right in the middle of it. And you see it, and a feather appears, and then it's like Robin, and she starts singing the song, and it's tainted with the Trailblaze, and so a train appears, and Septimus Sunday is like, singing is Robin, and he's like, she's like, you have to stop this, brother. But what it does is it gives you, mechanically, it gives you the boss button, because every boss fight has a cool button, a big story button that does a big damage to the boss, right? So for the Cocolia fight, it was you got to take control of the engine of creation, which is the big robot, and you got the puncher, right? Because for the Fantilia fight, the abundance lady, the very large abundance lady, and she was very abundant. I'm telling you, that's the only downside of this fight. We did not have a hot lady. I guess it's good for variety, but you know what I mean. Anytime we can get hot ladies, I will support that. But but for that fight, you had Dragon Hung, and he would show up and help you and do a big attack, because that was a big part of that story was the Dragon Hung issue. So for this, Robin singing the final piece of the plan comes into play. Robin is singing the counter song, the song of harmony, not tainted by order, but tainted by the freedom of Trailblaze. And now you get a button, and you hit it, and essentially like a magical harmony train comes in, and like the gates open, and it goes whoosh, and like wrecks him. Oh, it's pretty epic. And what's nice is every time you do it, you get a voice line from a character. The long play I watched actually did it a few more times than I did, because like I said, it was a pretty smooth boss fight for us, and I think I got to hear all the lines. But Welt has like the first one when it first comes in, and March gets one, and Don Hung gets one, and Robin gets one, which is one we had, and then Himiko even gets one, and they all say like lines that reference the story and things that have been going on. I forget what Welt says, but his is the starter. Is like, the people are you are not desiring this. They're trying to wake up. March says, even if life's hard, we're not gonna run. We won't try to escape it. We won't run from hardships. Don Hung says, appeals to him. He's like, fight against this. You're not shackled by the past. You're a noble soul, which is pretty cool if you know Don Hung's story. He's often felt shackled by the past. Robin comes in, and it was neat because we actually got the final hit of the fight. We got the win with the Robin message, and Robin's message was like, this, you don't have to be the only one to do this. This is you don't have to do everything for everybody else. It's their lives. It's something like that. It's much better than what I've remembered. And Himiko's final one is, I'll show you the power of the weak, because his whole thing was everybody's too weak, so they need to be controlled. So it was nice. So, you know, even this is flavorful. Even this is part of the story. So as you're playing, as you're fighting him, you get to call his train every now and then, do a cool line, which is a philosophical rebuttal to to his tyrannical power grab, and you get to do a big damage to him. So it's pretty cool. And then you get to phase 3, and he goes nuts. I think if I had to guess, because we never see the Stellaron, if I had to guess, he throws up a seed and says he's summoning the embryo of philosophy, and he changes. He looks different. He becomes like a big head with extra hands, and it's like all closed up. And then he opens and like this praise the sun, and that's when the bad things happen. But to do that mode, he like throws it up, and all the souls, you know, his little choir members, his souls go in there and get sucked in. So I think that orb that he throws up is the Stellaron, and he's sacrificing everybody he has left into it to get the final bit of power. Because that's all he does is sacrifice people he doesn't have the right to to get the power to control everyone. Because he's a real piece of shit. So that's his phase 3. He does that. He stops attacking you. He turns into this head, right? And every turn, he goes every turn now. So every time you take a turn, he takes a turn. And it's a countdown. He goes through the 7 days of creation according to order, right? And every time he opens up a little bit, and he says like date, truth, calendar, you know, it's like weird stuff. But and then he has lines as he's going through this that he's talking to order. He's like, by the vow of this 7-day rite, I summon you. You know, you know, and but the end of it, it's actually really interesting because he's like, for it wasn't, you know, it wasn't you that created everyone. It was humanity that created you. You know, and now it's like, and now do what I say, right? Which is really fascinating because that is the lore of the paths. They spawn from people's convictions, people following that philosophy, and then eventually someone follows it so strongly that they become an eon or something. Like, yeah, that's why the eons are all different things. And then the eon is the embodiment of that path and drives the path forward and grants powers to people who are on the path. And so that you have these like Cthulhu space gods that are philosophies. And so that's why people's motivations and philosophies in the game are so important, because it's actually the cosmic forces in this universe. And they can rise and fall as philosophies do. You know, sometimes they get absorbed into other ones. Sometimes a better philosophy comes by and defeats them. And this is all, you know, like, is personified the right word? This is all made real by like actual space god entities that represent those philosophies, you know, getting into fights with each other, absorbing each other, you know, joining forces, or just disappearing, you know, as thoughts change. So it's, you know, that's his whole thing. He's resurrecting the order. But if you remember, Sunday said he doesn't want more jailers. He doesn't want more kings. He doesn't want to resurrect the order so the order can rule everyone. He wants a world free of the eons, free of the paths. Even as a line, I think when you defeat him, where he's like, or somewhere in this fight, he has a line where it's like, if we had never experienced solitude, we would have never been on different paths. You know, and you gotta remember, he's in a different direction from his sister, and it seems like all they ever wanted was just to be together and know they were. It was always them versus the world, right? They were orphans. They were like war orphans, and then they end up apart, and they end up in different directions. I really think that's Sunday's downfall, to be honest. I think when he says that, he's regretting that he had to be in solitude. I think in a lot of ways he's projecting a lot of his problems onto everyone else. I think in a lot of ways he's the weak one, right? And and he wishes someone would protect him and keep him in a sweet dream. He wishes he didn't ever have to be in solitude and end up on a different path, right? These are all the problems. He wishes he never had to deal with the hardships of real life. And so he's like, and instead of like learning and growing like his sister did, and it, you know, he's like, well, she's strong, I'm the weak one, I can't do that. And his solution is to fix the world that's causing him problems instead of, you know, fix himself and learn and grow from the problems. And then he has like this martyr complex where instead of him having a problem and fixing it, it's like, I know, I'll fix it for everyone because it's not me, it's the world that's messed up. And so I'm not the one having a problem, everyone's having a problem. I will change the world by summoning this thing and controlling it all. Right, and then no one will have, all the weak people will be fine, when really he's thinking of himself as a weak person, right? So when he says, right before he summons, when he fully opens up and praises the sun and summons Inna, the order, the last line he says is, you know, for you were created by humanity, not the other way around. This whole 7 days of creation thing, he's like, it's a lie. You were created by people, so you have to listen to me because, right, you know, he doesn't want the eons to rule him. He doesn't want hardships. He doesn't want philosophies in life. He just wants everybody to be happy and live in their happy joy land where they don't have to make choices and then they don't end up opposed to each other, and then they don't have to, you know, deal with a conflict and learn and grow through the difficulties, right? It just wants them to stay, you know, childlike. Right, just stay like children, happy and pacified in front of the TV, so nothing's hard. Right, that seems to be what he wants. So even in this moment where he is literally summoning Inna to hurt us a great deal, to stop us from stopping him, he's still saying, I don't like you, you aren't anything, I'm in control of you, right? And it plays out as a really cool scene where he like opens up and then he reaches up and then, like, you know, he uses the power of the Stellaron and all this, and it summons not a whole Inna, but like a hand, a giant Inna hand comes out, and they do the moment of creation, Michelangelo, where you see the two, you know, God's hands touching Adam's hands, and it explodes essentially and does a shit ton of damage to your party. This is phase 3. It's the DPS check. So what you have to do is all the elements he is weak to in this phase, and all damage goes to the break bar, and you just have to break 9 break bars. But every one you break gives you some shield, so you don't actually have to break them all before he does the thing. I think in a lot of ways you're supposed to see it for the story, but I actually got really close to breaking it, to be honest. The here I actually took a lot of the screens for this fight because I didn't know which ones I wanted to show and which ones I didn't. I think I do actually want to show this one because I've described it and I think the visuals would be nice. So you'll have to hear me talking over it, so when it switches the camera, it's my live reaction, just so you can hear it. I mean, do we need to hear it? It's pretty cool. So I'll show it to you and you can have fun with that. All right, let me play it. Dude, we were so close. Dude, we almost broke it. He has a hand? God. We did it. Okay. Yeah, so that's we did it. We had just enough. You probably didn't need to hear the audio for it, but I didn't know which ones I was going to show you. So yeah, that's it. He does the whole thing, and he does the big explosion, and then he starts over. he starts over. Here, let me mute it. I can show it to you, right? This big boop. This big face thing. This is him, and he just like throughout the fight, he slowly opens up. I wonder if I could show it doing, and then eventually he gets to what you just saw, where he raises up and does the thing. Oh no, we're just doing other stuff. But yeah, it's wild. So that's right. Then he's literally summoning Inna to come out. But he's still telling him that Inna's shit. And that I'm actually kind of glad I left that on, because I forgot this song's still played. Like, you're getting this really cool song this whole time. You get this really, and when phase 3 hits, the vocals come in. So just to talk about that, when you start this, phase 1 is a very oppressive, like, church organ orchestra song, and it's very much his theme. It's oppressive, it's strong, it's like the music is being played at you, and it's very overpowering. When phase 2, you right near the start of phase 2, Robin starts her song, and there's no vocals yet, but it's a much happier pop song, and you can hear people like clapping. It's an audience participation song. So we've moved from this imposing music, like from a large orchestra being forced on you, to a pop song that you have a large crowd of you that you are willingly participating in, which I thought was a nice representation of some of the themes at play, where he's got his whole thing of controlling everyone, and Robin's like saying, no, we need to be in harmony, but because we choose to be, you know. When you get to phase 3 and he goes full Sunbud, right, the vocals kick in and you hear Robin singing. And so as you're winning, the song's getting cooler and more hype, and it's one of those really fun, hype, like pop songs where you're just like clapping along in the audience, that kind of song. So you're just getting raised up, right? You're feeling it. And you're running him in with trains, and people are, you know, shooting his philosophy down, and I don't know, it's very cool. So, and then he does his big summon, and then he just keeps doing that. And so you have to get all the break bars down. As you saw, we lived through, because I got through most of the break bars. Every time you get a break bar, you get a shield. It's just a mechanic spinning the whole fight. But this phase 3 is all about, like, can you get enough shields before he does his big nuke? And then when you finally break him, you get the opportunity to just do a bunch of damage to him, and then it starts over. And that's how it goes. And of course, you've got the trains to help you do it. Yeah, the trains to help you do it. So so you're seeing this story. You're seeing Sunday's story and his motivation. You're seeing it all in there. And you're seeing your fight against it. The battles of philosophy. You know what? I'll go ahead and play it. I'll play the because I'm done this video. Guess I did have a lot to talk about. The rest, once we get through the fight, it's gonna be pretty quick, to be honest. But I did want to show you, now that I've shown you a scene, I might as well show you the next one, because I don't think I have anything else to say about the fight. So when you beat the fight, you are treated to the end of this story, essentially, where you finally win, and Sunday and his philosophy loses, and Penacony is now harmonious with freedom, like it's always been from the time it rebelled from being a prison colony. So I will show it to you. I will play the sound again this time. So again, when you see it, I might not be able to stop myself from talking, which will be very confusing, because there will be two me's talking, and I'm sorry about that. But like I said, I think it's best to show you my video, so you'll just get my live reaction here to the end scene. I'll try not to talk too much so it won't be confusing, but you'll hear me talking from the stream. So here is us beating it. What? I don't have a skill point. Ah, whatever. Here we go. No, I got the video on. You know what I do have. There we go.
The weakness of humanity cannot be redeemed by others.
Yo, Robin with the final hit. Got him.
So, why does life slumber?
Are we gonna save this piece of shit?
Because someday
Yo, it's Sparkle. Yo, it's everybody.
we will wake from our dreams.
What? Oh no.
The night is still too short.
Brother, the dream is over.
Dude was just a coward in the end. You know what I mean? He was the one trying to escape.
In the first year of the AE 2158.
Okay, then he goes on this
Fiery
let me pause
conspiracy.
this. Then he goes on this it gives you that little exit sequence, very much like how Black Swan gave you a little exit sequence before the credits. It does that here. But as you heard, I didn't let it play very long because it's actually 4 or 5 slides of a lot of reading. As you heard, it's somebody we haven't heard before. I'm pretty sure that we don't recognize that voice. So that is one of the questions: who's telling our story? And we could talk about that story in a moment. But I wanted to talk about just in that you just see it. You see it. Like, what does he say? The night's still too short, dude. He's the weak one. He's the one that he's the one. He's the one that couldn't handle it. He's the one that wanted to escape reality. He's the one that wasn't strong once his sister left and couldn't keep himself from going down the wrong path. Right? All this, he's doing this to save everyone else. He's doing this because he wishes he could save himself. But instead of doing it, instead of doing anything that would, like any personal growth or whatever, he's looking for the wrong solutions. He's trying to fix the world instead of fix his damn self. So, right, like that's what I think. Like I said, these characters are deep and layered and interesting. But if you want to know, like, people have different interpretations, I'm sure. But that's where I am with him, is that it's him. He's the weak one. He's the coward. He's the one that he's trying to protect, and he's just excusing all of his actions by saying he's helping everyone else when it's really him that needs the help, but not even in this way, because he has a misunderstanding, because it's hard to live. And so he's like, well, I'll just fix life. I won't live. I'll put us all in a dream where no one has to live, and then the problem is solved. No, the problem is avoided. And the problem remains because you are in an illusion and you're not really living. You're in a dream. You're dead. Right? His solution was to die and to kill everyone by putting them, but humanely and nicely, by putting them in this dream. Right? And who's the other big kind of villain that's in this chapter? It's Aventurine. And what did Aventurine want? To die. He had a death wish because he never dealt with losing his whole family, and he felt like he should have died a long time ago. So he just keeps betting his life, but he's just too damn lucky to die. Right? And now you maybe see like why we had that whole section with him, because that theme is pretty important, because Sunday is in the same spot, but he's dealt with it a different way. He's taken the path of, he's had the opportunity to find some power, right? And he's been corrupted by the Dream Master and told, like, this is, he's been pushed into this. And so it's like, well, if I just take this power and change the circumstances, then everything's fine, instead of learning from the circumstances, because everybody's put into circumstances. You grow from them. You can't change them. That would be maniacal to think that you could change the world, right? You're not God. Sunday's like, well, if I got the Stellaron, maybe I am. No, Sunday, you're not. And that's the thing. That's the story. That's the story of this boss fight. That's the story of Sunday. That's the story of Penacony. It's the story of being awake and being dead and being in a dream. You know, that line, that whole, the night is still too short. I mean, I think that says it all. The man just wanted to stay in the dream, so he didn't have to wake up and face reality. I do think our line, Trailblazer's line, where finally Trailblazer answers the question that everybody's been answering, you know, why do we sleep? And he says, because eventually we'll wake from our dreams, I think is a little weak as an answer to the question. I'm not sure if that's an answer to why we sleep. But I guess the idea is because eventually we'll wake up, eventually we'll come back to life. But I thought it was funny how dramatic it was that it like really got Sunday through the heart. To me, I was like, does that make sense? Would that get Sunday? So for me, the whole line was the night's still too short. But I think for the cutscene, the line was supposed to be we'll wake from our dreams, which I thought was funny that I didn't like connect with the the storytellers on that piece. But whatever, maybe it resonated with you. So that's the story of the boss fight. That's the story. And it's pretty epic, and I like it quite a bit, and that's why I think it is at least on par with chapter 1 and the highs of that and how awesome it was. This to me was awesome, and it was worth all the build up. Like it was good. It paid off. My biggest concern about Penacony was would it pay off? They're doing something very ambitious, very complicated, and very easy to screw up. And I don't think they like nailed everything. There was a couple scenes where I was like, why are we doing this? There's a couple answers I haven't figured out, but you know, they might answer them later. Or maybe I'm just dumb and didn't figure them out. But I mean, that's not really, those aren't really big problems. Because in the grand scheme of things, they pulled it off. They delivered. And it was this fight that they delivered in. It was awesome. I think I'll remember this for quite some time, and I'll think back about it because it has that much weight to it. And what more do you want from an experience than a really good narrative? Anyways, I'm not done. I should be done. That should be. We should end the video. There's a few more things that happen. I want to at least briefly talk about them. Fuck me, I gotta sleep. I'm supposed to. Whatever. We've done 10-day marathon. Well, not, I guess it's been 11 days, but we did a 10-day marathon. Might as well just stick with it. So as you may recall, we go into this narrator sequence, and it's a really interesting sequence because we don't know who the narrator is. He says it's the first year of a particular Amber era, indicating one that, you know, this is the anniversary of the game, so it's been 1 year. But two, first year of an Amber era. When Kleepoth banged his hammer, when we saved Belobog, a new Amber era started. And a lot of people were like, wait, whenever Kleepoth hits his hammer, a new Amber era starts. I think this is the first time the game has confirmed, yes, we're in a new Amber era. I don't think anyone knows it yet, and I think this narrator is in the future. And that's why he knows it. Because he then goes on to kind of talk about what's happening. He talks about what happens later, and he hints at what's going to happen afterwards, like what a bigger conflict is going to be, you know, as a result of this. He's basically telling like a history story of, well, here's what happened for the first year of this Amber era, 2158. That's what he calls it. He implies that he says some strange things. Like he either implied that like Sunday died, or maybe he was just talking about this the the Septimus being dead. I don't know. We'll have to see what happened to Sunday. But he also said he brings up it was the second fall of an eon. Inna, the order, has now died twice. But he says this time it was with dignity, which I think was interesting. Right? And then he hints at, but there's a storm brewing as the people who follow Klepoth, the it's a hint that the IPC is going to create some problems. The followers of Klepoth are going to be a little bit too strong, and it's going to cause some problems. These are the hints that we're left with, and then it plays the credits. And you're like, who was the narrator? What is he hinting at? Why is he from the future? What is going on? Is it actually Clocky when he's not doing a goofy voice? I'm not sure. So there's that. Then the official, I think right before the credits, actually, I have it written down. Yeah, actually right before the credits, there is a final flashback of Robin, baby Robin and baby Sunday, and they're talking about stars in the sky, and Robin's scared that they might burn out, and Sunday tells her, well, that's just what stars do, but also the light we see from them is always in the past because it takes time. So even after they burn out, their light leads people for years on end. So the star may be gone, but it's still burning bright. And they talk about how in their paradise they want to have those stars and have them be happiness, the happiness that outlives the people. And Sunday's like, we just want one. He probably talking about his sister. And of course Robin says, no, we want more. We want at least two, because she's always including him, right? And maybe more. So again, it's the harmony. It's like we want everybody happiness to be so strong that it leads people in the future even after they're gone, which I think is a nice tie-in, because this whole story has been about people who have passed that are still leading us. Even that creepy thing about the sin thirsters in Nihility, they made ripples in the pond because they follow their path so strong, but here we followed the nameless here, the three nameless, Rosalina, Tiernan, and what, Legwork, and their legacy of trying to save Penacony was so strong that even though they're dead now, it led us there. Us, the Astral Express, and Acheron, because Tiernan's, he was the guy with the last regrets that she was helping, and and she said, you can pass on because I'll work on your last thing, and it was he wanted to save Penacony. So that's what brought her here. That's why she was so helpful. That's why that was her whole goal. And who was instrumental to doing this? The Astral Express and Acheron. We were following Mikhail. She was following Tiernan. These people, they may have died, but their light was still burning to save Penacony. And by God, they did it. We saved Penacony from the Order, from the Stellaron. They did it. And when the credits are done, it says in loving memory, of the people who died. It gives you the backstories of the full, no more mystery anymore. Here's the backstory of Rosalina. In loving memory of Tiernan, here's his full name and his backstory. In loving memory of Mikhail Char Legwork, and his whole backstory. And it's this really just awesome thing in the credits where, it's really the end of their story. It's the end of our story, but it's the end of their story, because they dedicated their lives at some point to saving Penacony, and they did it. We just finished their job. They did it. So it's remarkable. So yeah, stars burning long after they're gone. Yeah. So that's right. And then the credits happen. The only thing, the credit names did change a little bit. It put Acheron's name in there, but it also, the other change was Gallagher's name. It wasn't Gallagher as Gallagher. It was Penacony as Gallagher. And my theory that Gallagher actually wasn't lying when he said he doesn't exist, and he's somehow a figment of the dream that's just coalesced into reality. Because you never see him outside of the dream, right? and he has that whole conversation with Mikhail where he's gonna join him. He's talking to the dead Mikhail, and he's like, I finally finished the job. I can join you now. I don't think he like offs himself. I think he just lets himself go and dissipates into the dream because he was never that real to begin with. Right? And it says Penacony itself is Gallagher. So it's like, was he actually just a manifestation of the dream? Don't know. You know what? It could also be that he got to the credits and his whole goal is to screw with information, right? He's a fictionologist. It could be that he got to the credits and changed it to make it wrong just so that you wouldn't fully know. That could be it. And it worked. We don't fully know now. I've got a crack brain theory because we don't know now. Fictionologist strikes again, I guess. So the last thing is the post-credit scene. My God, it's an hour and 5 minutes. The last thing is the post-credit scene, and all it does is set up 2.3, because presumably 2.3 is going to be an epilogue focused on the IPC and the fallout of what's going on. Because the post-credit scene is Venturine talking to Jade, and Jade saying, like, you did a really good job. I'm on my way to finish this up. You know, you got my cornerstone in there, and that did everything we need, so we got this in the bag. So they're gonna come. They're still planning to take Penacony, and Boot Hill barges in the middle of the phone call and points his gun at Venturine and says, you know, the Venturine gives him some lines. He's like, "Look, I don't got time for this." He pulls out the gun. He says, "I need you to tell me, where is Oswaldo Schneider?" And you're like, what the fuck? And then it puts in little superscripts that Oswaldo Schneider is the head of marketing development department. So Boot Hill has some unresolved issues with the IPC. We know the IPC's coming to town and it's not going to go well. And then it says to be continued. And that's the official end of 2.2. And presumably 2.3 will be an epilogue section of chapter 3 where we deal with the fallout and we see what the IPC's up to. So that's it. That's the story. That's the whole. We did it. We did it. That's the whole story. We did it, boys. We got through chapter 3. We got through the main story of chapter 3. Let's call it that, because this epilogue won't really. It'll be a different story. I mean, we saw credits and everything. This has been the 3 patch setup. And I was really glad I did these videos because it's been really fun to just examine the story on this level. I didn't do it for 2.0, right? I wasn't doing videos then. But I think we got all of 2.1 and 2.2 here, which has been quite fun. What other relevant things we did? You know, we tried out Robin. She seemed fun. I'll give you a little tip for staying here this long. If you want an achievement in the game, go do the Robin trial. You still got like a week. Or if you have Robin, or if it's in the future, wait for a rerun. Go do her trial, and if you use her ultimate, she sings, right? She actually goes in the background. You can't use her as a character anymore, and she automatically assists your team, but because she's singing, she's literally went into the background and is singing for the fight, and it plays the music during the fight. It's actually really cool. It's a really cool mechanic. It's a neat character. I wish she had more time in the story, so I would have like really wanted to pull on her. I did like a 10 pull just to see if I got lucky, because you better believe your boy's saving for Firefly. So, but it doesn't matter because you're in the trial. But if you hit the little button, it's like left stick on controller. It's down in the bottom left. If you hit the button to look at your team's stats, while she's singing, and then you like get over to her so you could check out your whole team. If you go to her, and when it shows her picture of her standing there, she's not standing there, she's singing. She's literally actually doing a performance on her stat sheet. And if you watch it for 10 seconds, if you just sit there and listen to the song and watch her perform, you'll get an achievement. At least I did. So I thought that was funny. I did it on stream by accident because I was just like, Yo, so is she actually gone? So I tried to move over to her to see where she was and see how long the buff lasted. And she was just there with the microphone singing away. And I was like, what is this? This is so cool. So that was fun. There you go. There's your tip for staying around this long. We started the event too. It's an event. It seems fun. There's not too much to say about it. It's a lot like the drink event where it's something to do. You get to do editing. You get to put together a little. It's like a little puzzle game that you're editing movies for Clock Studios and trying to make sure they don't run out of business and can repair the big slash that Acheron put in there. And you get to make the little clocky movies, but it's really just solve the puzzle game. So it's fun. But yeah, that's 2.2, man. That's 2.2. I tell you, this Hoyo's really got something. I know, it seems the story's very literary is the best way I've explained it, because it's just there's a lot of like writing and there's a lot of character things and paying attention. You've got to like read it and dig in. I think you can just let it roll and watch the cool action parts and the cool cutscenes and stuff and be fine. But like there's a lot of depth there, like reading a book, like reading a novel. When they made Honkai Impact, they said it was a action comics game, and the comics translated to like the game was half a visual novel and half an action game. And I think Hoyo's never really like lost that. So they're still kind of just writing comics. They're still kind of just writing stories. And I think we saw that here. But to be honest, I'm into that kind of thing. So I've enjoyed it. I mean, like, you sit here doing hour-long videos talking about it. I enjoy that thing. So I thought this chapter was great. It was a little long. I think they could have cut some scenes, but it was very ambitious. So like, if you cut too much, you wouldn't have been able to pull it off. But I thought overall, this might be my favorite chapter so far. I mean, definitely with how shiny and new and recent it is, 100% my favorite chapter. Maybe when we're three more chapters in, I'll be like, you know what, that chapter 1 really was such a strong opener, and it was. Or maybe I'll appreciate, what chapter 2 set up and whatnot. But yeah, to me, this is like, the game hit a high point when it first came out with chapter 1, because that was on release. And I feel like, this is their moment. They released the first expansion where it's the first new planet, because half of chapter 2 was in there as well, in the release as well. So this is their first big release. It's their anniversary, and they did it. They nailed it. They needed to nail it. They needed to show that, hey, we're gonna keep doing this. We're gonna give you that chapter 1 experience again. That's our plan. That's what this game's gonna be. And they did it. They nailed it. They knocked it out of the park for me. I loved it. This has been great. I can't wait to see if chapter 4, if 2.3, the epilogue to chapter 3, presumably, is going to be just as good and fun. They keep it rolling. Maybe not like the highs of this one, but maybe we'll get some more crazy questions and some more, there's still some like little pieces that they could expand on. Just kind of give us that nice comfy wrap up where we're just not quite done with Penacony yet, because it's just too good to leave. Hopefully you figure out what's going on with Firefly. We don't know what's going on. She died again, but she was supposed to die 3 times, so of course she was going to die again. But what death is it? What's going to happen? I'm looking forward. Is that going to, she's a character in 2.4, a banner character, so maybe we'll see something then. What's going to go on with the IPC is how's Aventurine going to be now that we did all this crazy stuff? What's going on? Is Sunday still alive? Robin's still alive? I don't know. These are fun things that I'm going to enjoy, that I'm looking forward to enjoying. Shoot, dude, what a chapter. What a chapter. Thank God, this thing's amazing. It's been great. All right, but that's enough video. I guess this video was mainly the boss fight. Y'all hear that? I guess this video was mainly the boss fight. So, hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what I'll title it. But yeah, thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for this crazy marathon of dissecting 2.2. I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And I hope life goes well with you. And that's all I got for this one. So I'll see you around.